Our second lesson this morning is from Isaiah chapter 55. It's a look at the reign of God enacted here on this earth. Listen to the living word of the Lord for you this day. Hear, ho, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters. And you who have no money, come, buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your earnings for that which does not satisfy? Listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and delight yourselves in rich food. Incline your ear and come to me. Listen so that you may live. I will make with you an everlasting covenant, my steadfast, sure love for David. See, I made him a witness to the peoples, a leader and commander for the peoples. Now you shall call nations that you do not know, and nations that do not know you shall run to you. Because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has glorified you. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. We are still talking about the subversive Sabbath for a couple more weeks. This day of rest that God both takes and offers as a way to step out of the assumptions and the expectations that convince us that our salvation and our security is everywhere but with God. So today we see Sabbath holding space for memory, and that memory is what helps build the foundation for our trust in God. In the Corinthians passage, we hear the foolishness of the gospel, the proclamation of a Messiah crucified, God's foolishness as wiser than human wisdom, God's weakness as stronger than human strength. Rest that offers salvation is the same kind of paradox. It goes against everything that the world insists will save us. It absolutely does not seem logical. We struggle to trust what seems like foolishness. We really wish God would fix the world, but only in a non-foolish way. Adam and Eve ate from the forbidden tree, ate fruit from the forbidden tree in the garden in Eden, where they actually had world peace. We crave it, we pray for it, they had it. But not eating from that one tree, that was foolish. Why should they trust foolishness? A people freed from Egyptian slavery, brought across the Red Sea to freedom, taken to Mount Sinai, where they listened to God speak, where they saw the power of God in their midst. But they couldn't really expect to stay faithful when Moses went up on that mountain and stayed for way too long. It was foolishness just to hang around when they could make a God that they knew would be right there with them. David, the youngest son of Jesse, was chosen in an unexpected God move to be the king of Israel after Saul. And David was remarkably committed to God and to God's ways, right up to the point where he discovered Bathsheba taking a bath on that rooftop next door. And it was foolish for a king not to manipulate people and circumstances to get what he wanted. Jesus, Son of God, who lived and loved and revealed the reign of God and showed God's radical grace and inclusion, Jesus lived and then died the foolishness of the cross for the salvation of the world. the foolishness of Sabbath, hinges the love of God and neighbor. Sabbath rest takes us out of the anxiety system of production and consumption and brings us an abundant life. The foolish of Sabbath allows us time to remember. We remember God's mighty works, God's commands that are intended to bless the nations. You heard that in Isaiah. Nations you don't know will run to you. We remember the shepherd's love that pursues us all the days of our lives. And this kind of remembering is critical if we want to live in that covenantal alternative to the anxiety and acquisition systems of the world. The systems of the world work hard to pull us off God's foundation. As the people were ready to cross into the promised land, they only had the River Jordan left. Moses was worried. He knew that prosperity tends to breed amnesia. He remembered the golden calf incident when God was so angry that the tablets were broken, and so was the covenant. And Moses remembered the time and the energy he spent facing God and insisting and bargaining that God remember who God was. And God did, and began another act of remarkable forgiveness. The people had already struggled to remember God in the desert where conditions were difficult and resources were limited, and Moses was concerned that going into this land of milk and honey would convince the people that their faith in and dependence on God was, well, foolish. So he stopped the people at the Jordan River, and he gave a long speech, which is what we preachers do best, right? He said things like, "Take care that you do not forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Do not exalt yourself, forgetting the Lord your God." Moses worried because if the land was fertile, which it was, its produce would make God's people happy and secure, safe. And then they begin to think, well, if Israel increased its produce, then we'll be safer and happier. And it would be a very short trip from that to thinking that the goal of life was acquiring and acquiring and acquiring in order to make life happier and happier and safer and safer. And then neighbors become competition and threats. So Moses reminded the people, it's written down in Deuteronomy, reminded the people that Sabbath breaks that pattern. And Sabbath, he reminds them, is for all, even the people that are already in this new land, so that they may rest as well as you, Moses says. It's a slight change from the command that was given on the mountain, and it makes clear to Israel that they are to bring freedom with them to whatever people they encounter. Moses did not want the people enslaved again, certainly not by carelessly choosing to enslave themselves. So the gift of Sabbath is a pause, an opportunity to remember, to dance and sing, Brueggemann says, and celebrate our freedom. Sabbath, he says, is a great festival of freedom, when Pharaoh and all coercive expectations are dismissed and there is free bread and free water and free milk and free wine. Oh, everyone that thirsts, come to the waters. You that have no money, come and buy and eat, and remember your God.